didn't see you. Yeah, I'm going to do a recap of the Speedgoat 50K, update you on my training for UTMB as well as what went down this past weekend. I was going to do a big, I filmed some stuff pre-race. I was going to do a race video this year like I have done in the past. And I'll run some clips now of the race that my parents shot. But unfortunately, with the main camera that I gave my parents were busy because they had to crew for both me and Sandy. I botched the settings on the camera, or they got messed up in the bag. It was totally too light, too bright on top of Hidden Peak for the first climb, so she missed, or my mom missed, or my dad missed filming the top guys, Jim Walmsley, myself, Tim Tollefson, basically a lot of the guys. We did get some footage of the women, the top women coming up the first climb there, which I'll run as we get into this talk, as well as some finish line footage and stuff like that. But then my parents, they're so great, they're so supportive. I really lucky to have them out there. But somehow the camera also, the battery got left on in the bag, so it drained and they weren't able to shoot as much. But my mom had a little backup camera, and that's where you see the shot of the moose and some of this footage going up, as well as the finish line stuff, which I'll run over this so you guys could get an idea of what went down out there. But if you haven't seen the results, I had a bit of a rough race personally. Ran my slowest time in 4 years at the Speedgoat 50K, 5:31. My Hoka teammates were finished ahead of me in Hoka Sweep for the men. Jim Walmsley won, new course record, 5:04. The old course record officially was from me 3 years ago in 2014, which was 5:12. The course hasn't changed much since 2014. In 2013, when I raced Anton Krapicka, Max King, Jason Schlarb there, it was a much faster course. It was a mile shorter, and that's where the 5:08 time came from on my end. But my personal best was 5:12 on the course. So Jim, to run 5:04 on the harder course with slippery snowfield conditions and the heat that's a really fast time on that course. And Tim Tollefson was second in about 5:21. He passed me at the final aid station and opened up a lot on me because I was really rigging up hard and fading hard in the last 10K basically. To finish in 5:31 for third place podium. Women's side, Anna Mae Flynn set a new course record running 6:18. Second place was Kelly Wolf, about 9 minutes back, and then Brittany Peterson, I believe, was third to round out women's podium. Super competitive women's race and fast times on their side as well. But yeah, for me it was not a good confidence booster. It was a little alarming how bad I felt and how tired I felt, and you know. It's the benefit of hindsight, and I don't want to make a bunch of excuses here in this vlog, but I just think, you know, I messed up. I messed up. But Speedgoat's not the main target, right? UTMB is, and so I think I still have time to redeem myself. I have 4 weeks. It's crunch time. A lot of these guys, you know, Jim, Tim, Dylan Bowman, myself, we're all tuning up for UTMB, and so we've all raced Speedgoat, kind of training on tired legs, so to speak. And you could look at all of our training, I believe, all those guys that I just mentioned, you could look at all our training on Strava, right? Full transparency there. Look at Strava, you could see the differences in some of the stuff we do, differences in philosophy, I guess. But I think, myself personally, if I had to be honest with myself, and this is now the benefit of hindsight data after the race, is that I'm still tired from those 140, 130 mile weeks that I did 2 weeks ago. I did taper for Speedgoat. I wanted to rest up. I wanted to run well at Speedgoat. I only ran 70 miles a week. The last 2 weeks about going into Speedgoat, less than 20,000 feet of climbing. But those 2 weeks I did earlier in July, 140 miles a week, 130 miles a week, you know, 25-hour training weeks with close to 30,000 feet of vertical. That was a lot for me. That was a lot for me and tired me out. And there's some residual fatigue, I think, that lingers there. As well as, you know, racing frequently, racing Mount Washington, Mount Blanc Marathon, right? Probably not the best idea. So, you know, I'm botching it up. I make mistakes with my own training, my own racing, and it was very disappointing. It was very disappointing to come out at Speedgoat flat on tired legs, because Speedgoat's always been near and dear to my heart. I've raced there. It was my 4th time there. I've raced there, you know, 3 times and been very consistent with my time there. Like I said, the course changed in 2014 and when I ran it 2015, but I ran within 30 seconds of my time. I ran 5:12, about 5:12 flat in 2014, 5:12:30 in 2015 to win by pretty large margins, and I was very consistent and confident this year that I could run close to that 5:12 type of time. Of course, you know, Jim goes off and runs 5:04, so he's blowing us all away. And yeah, but it also interesting fact actually is I've raced Jim on that course in 2014. Jim Walmsley ran Speedgoat that year, and there was also another fast track guy, Pat Smythe, in the race back in 2014, and we all were kind of together first 3 miles on the climb. And actually I'll link to that video at the end of this video so you could see the 2014 Speedgoat race if you haven't already, because that was my last full video, I think, of this race. Actually, maybe I shot footage in 2015 as well. But anyway, competitive race this year, interesting dynamic. We were out around course record pace on the first climb, except I was not feeling good. Jim had opened up a gap on me on the first climb. I was kind of hoping, based on looking at his Strava training, that he'd be a little tired because he had just done like a 125-mile week with 40k feet of climbing in Silverton, and stacked that around his course record at Kendall Mountain Run, where he got Joe Gray's course record by 3 minutes in a 12-mile race, and had some couple 50k long runs the week before Speedgoat. So but he was out of sight pretty quickly. We saw some moose. It's pretty cool. Actually, cue up the moose footage. My parents caught a shot of the moose on the gondola going up. We saw them about 2 miles into the race, a male and a female moose. Always scary to see, always exciting to see though as well, wildlife out on the course. I guess they also saw porcupine, but I digress. And then so then at the top of the first climb, Tim Tolfson was playing it safe. He had his trekking poles out. Him and Dylan Bowman were dialed with their trekking poles, and they were several minutes back. But throughout the race, Jim kept opening up minutes on my course record pace, and I realized, looking at my splits, that I was getting behind my previous splits at Speedgoat, and I was not running well. I was working really hard. I was breathing pretty hard. It wasn't a nutritional mistake. It wasn't a pacing mistake. I did turn my ankle pretty bad on the first descent and was really hobbling around for that. I thought I might have to drop out for a while. Didn't want to cause permanent damage. That didn't slow me down as much as I just think my legs were just tired from all the training. And some days you have kind of bad days, and mentally it probably didn't help. I was all alone and kind of in no man's land, but I was feeling pretty dialed with the nutrition, taking the spring energy, staying hydrated. I wish I had one more electrolyte gel between a couple of aid stations, so I was getting a little thirsty, a little warm, but no real excuses there. I was a little bonky maybe on the final climb, but that's not what slowed me down. It was the fact that my legs were just stiff and tired, and because of that, you try to work hard and power hike well, and I just was not power hiking well at all. So in the final climb, Tim Dawson's got his trekking poles out. I'm looking back over my shoulder. He catches me, and I know he's gonna catch me. And then Tim Tolson's a great descender. He ran a great split to finish hard in 5:21, but again, Jim was way out front, 5:04. New course record, and the women's race is actually more dense, I think, in terms of top competition, and we'll cue up some of the footage there with Anna May and Kelly Wolf coming through the tunnel aid station there, as well as kind of some finish line random montage that whatever my mom filmed. But yeah, it was kind of an alarming thing for me. I'm gonna get my blood tested, I think, this week. I want to ramp up training. I'm more determined than ever after a failure. Right? I get really motivated. I want to, prove that I could race well on the mountain stage against the world's best runners. And UTMB is a great opportunity for that. And I think I could still be dialed for that. It's going to be tough. It's tough, but that's why I do it. We want the big challenges. We want the big competition on the big stage, right? And I think, the time between now and UTMB is very short. So originally in my plan, I'd written like, oh, you got to hit 150 miles a week, right? I don't know, what is that in kilometers? It's a lot of kilometers. Let's see, 100 miles a week, 160, 50. Is that like 250, 260 kilometers per week? I'm not doing the metric conversion right. It's a lot of volume. But I realized that, you overtrained a little maybe before Speedgoat. You've climbed a lot. You need to cut back, right? Like, Tim Tolson's a great example. He's consistent, third at UTMB. He's convinced me to use trekking poles maybe. So I'm experimenting with that again, even though I said I wasn't going to do that. Very indecisive. But look at his training on Strava. He doesn't run much over 100 miles a week. He doesn't have time to. He's got to work. He's a physical therapist, right? And he doesn't climb more than 20,000 feet of vertical per week very often. He will crack that occasionally, but he hasn't been. It's a fine balance between overtraining, over-fatiguing yourself, and coming into UTMB tapered well, rested, and ready to race. And looking at an example like that, he's a podium finisher, 3rd place in his debut 100 last year. That's inspiring to me, right? Shout out to Tim Tolson, Hope teammate. But yeah, I think, with the time frame, I'm not going to be able to hit those 150-mile weeks. I'm going to have to be a little more conservative and rest up, but still try to get in a lot of vertical these next 2 weeks before I really taper down, and be very smart with my training, because you can't be off again. Can't blow a gasket like I did at Speedgoat and fade like that, or it's going to be epically bad at UTMB, right? And I think the good thing is Speedgoat really, it's a mountain race like UTMB, but it's not UTMB. It's 3 times, it's a third the distance of UTMB, right? Almost exactly. It's 33 miles versus 100 miles. Actually, UTMB is like 107 miles. Less than a third of the distance. It's about a third of the climbing of UTMB, right? 12,000 feet of climbing versus 33,000 feet of climbing, right? A little more than a third of the climbing. And in terms of duration, it's only going to be about a quarter of the duration of UTMB. UTMB is going to be 4 times longer. It's a 20-hour race, right? So that's a really big difference right there, being fine-tuned for short distance, high energy, high aerobic, high VO2 max type of mountain climbing versus the real long pull overnight in the mountains. Can you climb well at mile 3 or mile 6 or mile 20? That's a lot different than climbing well at mile 60 or mile 80. And of course, being dialed with your gear, dialed with nutrition, hydration, and then dialed mentally is all part of the strategy, not blowing out your legs as well with the pacing and things like that. So it'll be interesting. I'm not going to lie either. I've had a fickle history at the 100-mile distance and at longer ultras, very unpredictable. My first UTMB was a total fluke 2 years ago, falling and injuring my knee. Who knows what would have happened? I think I probably would have blown up in the second half, like just bonked epically, and a lot of guys do. I can't say I would have done well that year. Western States was a disaster for me as well. Massively dehydrated, went out too fast, really paid the price for that, gutted it out. Some of the most painful 30 miles of last 30 miles of a race I've ever run. I was at Western States last summer. And then Runner Rabbit Run, I knew I was not going to have it. It wasn't a big stage, well, relatively as big of a stage type of race. So I pulled the plug early at Runner Rabbit Run, DNF. That's a really inconsistent 100-mile schedule for someone like me. But it makes sense too. Like, coming from a track and road background, a lot of speed guys, I think it's hard to have range. It's hard to have range. Any service, any distance is my motto. But at the same time, if you don't train specifically for the specific demands of these different events on the spectrum, at the highest level, you're going to get your butt kicked, or you're going to have an epic meltdown, or you're just not going to be prepared. And I think, it's a good thing that our 5K track PRs don't determine our 100-mile success necessarily. There's no correlation, but 100-mile mountain race, flat 5K on the track, not necessarily the biggest predictor, right? So it's hard to have range. And then even looking at road marathons, traditionally I've performed better in my career at shorter races, right? 104.32 half marathon is still a better performance in terms of points and index than my marathon PR, 2:16.52. I've always felt like I could have been knocking on the door of 2:15 if I really focused on the marathon, but I'm fine with the 2:16 PR high, but there was that thing there, as well as getting into mutt running, into mountain ultra trail running. Some of my best performances have also traditionally been shorter mountain races. Mount Washington, the first year I did it, the U.S. mountain ranking champs running 58:27 at Mount Washington in 2012. That's less than an hour race, Mount Washington. Pikes Peak Ascent is a 13-mile all-uphill race. Winning there in the international team challenge and running 2:10 at Pikes Peak. Those are some of my races that I'm really proud of and that I've done well on the competitive stage. Longer ultras, I've had a less than ideal track record, especially 100K and longer. So, a lot of people say, oh, your sweet spot's 50K, your sweet spot's this. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I do want to try to do well at a mountainous 100-mile and on the biggest stage like UTMB. So that's the goal. Maybe the odds are stacked against me, but bring it. Bring on the challenge. Bring on that. I love being outdoor. I love the mountains there. I love exploring and pushing my body mentally and physically, and the energy and everyone I've met in the running community, for the most part, have been really supportive. So it's going to be really exciting these last 4 weeks going into UTMB. Definitely want to update the channel. Again, follow our training on Strava. as well as the video vlogs. I'm going to do some more media for you guys and fun videos and training talks and things like that. So be sure to subscribe for the newest videos. Again, I hope I've shown enough of the Speedgoat footage there, but yeah, great event by Carl Meltzer, RD. Check out his Hoka video. He's got a new Hoka video out. I'm not sure if it's on their YouTube channel yet, but Carl Meltzer, the Speedgoat. Speedgoat 2 is named after him. Great shoe. It's what I'm training in. We'll be wearing at UTMB most likely, so definitely stay tuned for that and the gear as I get it dialed down, because I really need to now. It's crunch time. Pressure's on. Bring it. I gotta figure some stuff out. I'll probably share my blood test results, things like that. Believe in full transparency. So whatever you guys want to see and hear about, feel free to comment below. Really appreciate all your support, and yeah, all the Patreon supporters for making this possible. This videos and media, mixing that with my running has been a dream come true and a real passion of mine. So thank you guys. Hope your training's going well. Hope to see you, some of you, out in Chamonix. Sandy and I'll be going out late August. And yeah, definitely stay tuned for that. Thanks so much, guys, and catch you next time.